Hi, I'm Glen Anderson from the Olympia Fellowship of Reconciliation. This TV series explores a variety of issues that relate to peace, social justice, and nonviolent social change. For several years, the Western Washington Fellowship of Reconciliation staff and volunteers have developed and carried out some creative and ambitious training for a select number of Puget Sound area teenagers for parts of July and August. These are peace activist trainees, and each of them earns a small stipend. We have 5 guests. 4 of these are current peace activist trainees who are spending part of their summer learning and developing skills about peace, social justice, and nonviolence. And the 5th guest, the one who's not a teenager, you can decide who that is when you get a chance to look at them all, is Ellen Finkelstein, the organizer for the Western Washington Fellowship of Reconciliation. Oh, you guessed. Okay. You guessed who that is. Ellen has decades of experience working for good things and is part of the team that's providing the training. We have a culture in our society that wants us to be afraid of homeless people, afraid of Muslims, afraid of teenagers. And this program gives you a chance to meet some young people, and you can decide whether you want to fear them or, as I do, to respect them. And by the end of this hour, I hope you'll join me in respecting them. We'll have a chance to meet them and find out what makes them tick and what they're doing. I'm happy to welcome Ellen Finkelstein, Katie Mesmer, Maria Tamayo, Matt Pfeiffer, Ellie Lipton. Good to have you all here.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Ellen, can you start by just giving like a little overview of what the Peace Activist Trainee Program is?
Well, as you said, it's an opportunity for Western Washington Fellowship of Reconciliation to offer to high school students. In this case, this year there are 6 peace activist trainees working with us. 4 of them are here tonight for a month. And the program is basically to give skills, train, and learn about different organizing techniques, and also to meet with and get exposure to lots of different activists working on a variety of issues and work together, which is one of the best gifts of this program.
It's been fun talking with each of you on the phone in advance to prepare for the program and find out, because all of you had said how well you folks had bonded and how cohesive it is. And I think part of that is the organizing climate that Ellen and the others provide, and part of it is I think they must have selected just the right people. So it's fun to do this. And then there's one other person that we had hired, that the FOR had hired.
That's right.
To work with this during that time frame, plus you, plus a bunch of volunteers.
Mm-hmm. The Abe Keller Peace Education Fund does the funding for us, and the last couple of years they've allowed us to also hire somebody who's a little bit younger than some of us who are volunteers and staff to work with the high school kids.
Okay. Well, we'll get a chance to talk with each of you about what your roots are of activism, how you came to be concerned about the issues that you work on. And I wonder if we can start with Ellie, how did you develop your concern for social justice?
Well, I started volunteering with homelessness in 7th grade. I volunteered for the first time at Boomtown Cafe, which was a cafe for low-income and homeless people where they could get a really great meal, actually. They had a great cook.
And that's right in downtown Seattle.
Yeah, right. Like Pioneer Square area.
Yeah.
And to pay for it was either a very inexpensive or 15 minutes of work, which is what the majority of the patrons did. So for my first time ever volunteering, I was at Boomtown, and we got a quick orientation, and I have to admit I was a little frightened because I grew up on Mercer Island, which is a really well-off community that's pretty secluded from, it's an island in between Bellevue and Seattle, so I was not used to seeing homeless people, but when I started serving them their food, I was just really blown away by the genuinity and the kindness and respect that they showed, and it just got me to thinking why these people are in the situations that they're in, and what I can do to help them, because they seemed more than happy to help brighten my day. So I've been working to try and brighten other people's.
And you've continued your work with people in extreme poverty.
Mm-hmm.
What else have you done?
I've worked in a whole variety of soup kitchens, shelters, teen shelters, all across the board. I've also done a lot of work with individuals with special needs.
Like what kind of special needs?
Mostly mental disabilities, but a lot of individuals I've met with mental disabilities have coupled physical disabilities, such as, for the mental disabilities, autism, Down syndrome, etc.
Okay, great. We'll come back and get a chance to find out some more about you and what you're up to and working on. Let's check in with Matt. How did you become a peace activist, Matt?
Well, sort of around 8th grade, I just, when the war was starting, I went to a few protests, and, I think like most people in Seattle, was sort of, I didn't want the war to start, and so I got involved in a few protests, and, well, the war started, and, it was discouraging, and I fell out of the loop with the people I was sort of involved with there, and didn't do activism for a long time, and then I ended up going to Guatemala for 5 weeks and studied language school and traveled around there. And I was really amazed by and sort of saddened by the damage that our country had done, both economically and militarily, to the country of Guatemala through inciting a coup and through our economic policies, CAFTA and others. And it really sort of made me realize...
CAFTA is the Central America Free Trade Agreement, yeah.
And it really made me realize that though, while someone in Guatemala, who may be working many, many hours on a finca and may have very little free time, they were still able to organize, and they were still able to stand up for their rights and stand up for the rights of others. Me living in the United States, I have, all this free time that most of my friends are using, watching TV or playing video games or something. Why don't I use the immense amount of free time, the immense, opportunities that I have and privilege to help organize and help people here and in other countries as well? So.
And you've done some student peace activities as well?
Yeah, and so when I came back from Guatemala, I started getting involved in, the occupation project, occupying senators' offices, getting them not to vote for war funding, as well as working with Youth Against War and Racism on a variety of issues around the war, just general rallies, as well as pressuring the school board to limit military recruitment, which I guess I'll get to later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. That'll be fun to talk about that a bit later in the program. Yeah, so Maria, you've developed some concerns about issues also. Tell us what you're up to.
Yeah, when I first started the program, the main concern was mainly immigration, just from my personal background and personal experiences. But then, when you start getting into one subject, it's just like you can see all these millions of other things open up. Like, you don't have just one main interest anymore. And so then after that, I've kind of started into the domestic violence issues that people have had, and I worked with Consejo. And
what is that?
Consejo is like a counseling place. They do like teen advocates every year, and they choose from around the schools of Seattle. And they choose about 6 kids to do a program there, and they take them through domestic violence training, and they teach them how to advise their friends and how to just react to someone that's being abused in any kind of way in different kinds of situations, and how just to be there. And
So the idea there is that that way we have people who know about domestic violence and how to help sprinkled throughout the schools.
yeah, and then afterwards it was just kind of upon us to like kind of aware others about it, and let the word out about other people, like how to kind of us teaching other people. They taught us, we teach others, they teach others. Kind of like a chain type thing is how they want to raise that. So.
And so you had immigration as one concern, and then you have this as well.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll follow up on these a bit in a few minutes. Katie, how did you develop your concerns for peace and justice?
Well, good question. I guess in middle school, I did a lot of volunteer work with the homeless, but even so, at that time in my life, I didn't really have quite as a connection with my work, and I didn't get passionate about a social justice issue really till one of my really good friends came out to me as being gay, and it really opened my eyes to the horrors that happen to people in the U.S. when they come out as being gay, lesbian, transgender, and so I got really involved. I did a lot of research. I joined my school's Gay Straight Alliance, and from there I just really networked with a lot of people in my school, started learning about race, class, gender issues, and really have broadened myself from there.
You mentioned on the phone when we were preparing for the program that your school has a mix of different races, different economic classes, and you were sort of like noticing these things.
Yeah, in elementary school, my elementary school is placed in an affluent neighborhood, and it had a bilingual program that brought in a lot of kids from the lower class neighborhoods, especially immigrant children. And so it was this really interesting dynamic of white middle class children and lower income children of color. And so I really did start noticing a lot of those things then, but I didn't quite make that connection really till high school when I learned about it more.
And you told me on the phone that you're involved with the Model United Nations program in high school?
My school has a Model United Nations program where we go to 2 conferences each year, represent a country, and talk about international issues, which is really fun.
Yeah. Well, let's go back through the group here again and look at some more of the issues that you're working on. Ellie, you told us about getting involved with people who are like really poor and even homeless. What else would you like to say about that? Just things you've learned from that or experienced, or?
Gosh, there's so much. I guess the main thing that really struck me is, as I said, when I first began, very first time I volunteered, I was my first impression was I was just a little frightened because it was unfamiliar. But very quickly, I was just overwhelmed by the warmth that many homeless individuals show and the kindness that they treat those who help them with. And I observe people walking past bums on the street, just glaring at them as they walk by, potentially saying rude comments, just saying, "Go get a job, you lazy bum," stuff like that. And it makes me very sad because a lot of the times the people who are saying these things don't really know. I mean, you can't look at someone and know their life story. You can't just know what has happened to them and why they're the way they are. Someone might be in a homeless situation because they lost a job or they got a divorce, and it's not necessarily always their fault. It's not necessarily that they are spending all their money on drugs or alcohol, which is a lot of people's impressions of homeless people. And
You had mentioned on the phone that our nation has this sense of valuing life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and you made a linkage with that.
Well, I mean, our country is founded on the basis of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all, and our country is supposed to be free for all to pursue these three ideals, yet we are making it very difficult for a lot of people in our society to live up to have life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. I mean, as I said, it's not necessarily someone's fault, and it's once you fall into homelessness, it's not like it's that easy to get out. If you're filling out a job application, what are you supposed to put as your address?
Yeah.
And it's sad to me that our nation doesn't seem to value such a huge portion of the population's lives and their how they deserve liberty and the pursuit of happiness as well.
We've done a number of programs in the Olympia FOR program over the years on issues of homelessness, including just the most recent one on the tent city happening locally.
Tent City's great.
And we did one about downtown is for everybody. A few years ago, there was just a lot of public agitation about why do we let these bums hang out downtown kind of thing, or these young people with orange hair or something, And there's just a lot of polarization starting to come out of some parts of our local community, and so we did the program about downtown is for everybody, and tried to do just the values that you're expressing. So, Matt, let's talk a bit about counter recruitment. You mentioned that just at the end of your previous thing. So you are aware of some problems related to recruiting for the military, and there's this thing called counter-recruitment. Can you tell us what counter-recruitment means?
Well, counter-recruitment can mean a number of things. It can mean, actually going into a school where a military recruiter, or a mall or somewhere like that, where a military recruiter is recruiting people to go join the military, and actually standing there and giving a counter-argument why the military is actually not a very good option for when you compare it to jobs, other jobs or college, and but it can also mean lobbying the school board and other public officials to change the rules that allow counter-recruiters that allow counter-recruiters to counter-recruit in schools and allow military recruiters to recruit in schools. For instance, in many high schools in Seattle, military recruiters will chaperone school proms, they'll ride the school buses with kids, and these tactics aren't really the tactics of a college recruiter or anything like that. In fact, most college recruiters don't sit in the hallways with a table at all. They'll go to a job fair or set up individual appointments with prospective
and they sure don't phone you at home at dinner time and badger you.
No. And so under the No Child Left Behind Act, military recruiters have to be treated the same as college recruiters. So what I started doing with the Youth Against War and Racism organization was crafting a policy with some sympathetic school board members, Sally Soriano in particular, to create a policy that would restrict the tactics that military recruiters used, and but still allow full and even increased and more equitable access to college recruiters, so that you don't get these sort of conniving tactics like chaperoning proms and calling you at dinner time constantly and things like that. So,
tell us some more. There's the when around the 1st of July or no, when was this? There was a school board meeting. That made the news. Tell us how that went.
Well, we had been working for several months on this policy, and there were a couple sympathetic school board members who we had been working with, but there were plenty who were not sympathetic to getting military recruiters out of the high schools, and so we continued to go to subcommittees and try and get our policy passed, and trying to get it at least to the board meeting, and they were just roadblocking us and telling us it wasn't possible, and telling us that it didn't comply with No Child Left Behind when we had consulted lawyers and everything. We knew, quite clearly that it did comply with No Child Left Behind. And so we finally decided to resort to mobilization at the school board meeting, and we came in with many kids, 50 to 100, I don't know, and began chanting, and we chanted over the school board meeting, and then had a die-in in front of the podium, and they canceled the meeting, and so had a meeting in private while we had a people's school board meeting outside, and let everyone have public testimony, and talked about the issues of military recruitment, and talked about whatever other issues people had signed up to talk about. So,
thanks. Maria, let's see. You've worked on a number of issues, including immigration and domestic violence. What do you see as going on with immigration as an issue these days?
Well, definitely there's, how the United States is building the wall down in Mexico, which I don't think would really help anything, because, they could just always climb over it. It's not going to really help the situation at all. And, everyone here is an immigrant. I'm sure, that we can all agree on that, because we weren't all naturally, born on this land. It's not our natural land. So I definitely think that, the president is being very unreasonable. They've taken, different kinds of, not lawsuits, oh my gosh. They've taken different kinds of ideas to Congress, but they've never really passed on them. They've always been really short, one or two Congress will not go with it. So it's not like they're trying to come to a consensus on where they can meet halfway between being able to have the government be happy, as well as the non-citizens, the immigrants. And so it's really hard for them to kind of find a medium right now, but hopefully they can find that soon. So
yeah, I think it just seems like on that May 1st of, was it
2007, 06?
Was it when all of a sudden it was happening everywhere, that people were coming out and says, so we, immigrants really matter. Immigrants have and deserve human rights and respect and stuff. It just caught people by surprise. It was one of these issues that most people just didn't pay attention to until people went out in the streets.
Yeah, it was really actually very awesome. We had Boca Negra.
Juan Bocanegra.
Yeah.
Yeah, a great local Seattle active guy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came and spoke to us, and it was really awesome, because he was explaining to us how he had kind of helped organize the different things, and how they expected such a small amount. And when the cops had asked him, how many people are you expecting? He'd be like, oh, not that much, And then it's just they were overwhelmed by how many people showed up, because they didn't expect so many people. So it was really, really awesome.
Yeah, and this was just all over the country.
Yeah,
it really,
definitely.
It really shows that immigrants and the allies of immigrants, people who care about human rights, are a force to be reckoned with. And you attend Ballard High School?
Yes, I do.
And what's the sense of the students there?
Well, it really depends on what kind of school you compare it to, in the different areas that we have. But to me, Ballard is actually really diverse. Everyone has different clubs that they can attend to. They especially for the Latinos, they have a Proyecto Saber, which is known project, and it's really awesome, because on the marches we were speaking of, they closed down that whole classroom, and not only Latinos attend that classroom, but Caucasians, African Americans, Asian descent, Pacific Islander, a lot of different heritages attend that classroom for past class, for help. It's like a study hall type thing, and it was really awesome to see the whole school kind of come and support the Latino community, the Hispanic community in the school, because a lot of people did not show up to that classroom. Everyone that has ever attended class in that classroom did not show up to school. And it was really amazing to see how much support the Latino community in Ballard High School could get.
And then you work on domestic violence issues as well, and what are you up to on that, or what are you looking ahead to be doing on domestic violence?
Well, after the teen advocacy thing that I did with Consejo, it's kind of I haven't kept up so much as I would have liked to, but I've definitely acknowledged other people about it. But recently we're doing speeches in the PAT program, the Peace Activist Training Program, and we're doing speeches, and my speech is going to be about domestic violence. So.
Okay, so this Peace Activist Trainee Program is a way to develop skills that you can use for any of the things that you're working on. right?
Yes.
Thank you. Katie, when we talked on the phone, you mentioned this really strong, lifelong passion about health issues, public health.
Yes.
Tell us what your concerns are there.
Well, I have a lot of concerns, nationally and internationally. I've always, since I was little, known I wanted to have a career in health. But as I've gotten older, I've definitely learned more about international problems, especially with the AIDS epidemic, the tuberculosis epidemic that's going on that isn't treatable by antibiotics, and just how our country has played such a role in that by basically exploiting other countries of their resources, which helps disease flourish, as well as doing horrible things like testing drugs on, people who don't know they're being tested on in a lot of countries. And also just the problems that have definitely become well aware lately because of Michael Moore, but our healthcare system in the U.S. and how it's definitely become a privilege to be able to pay for healthcare.
You work with the needle exchange program.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, I started working at a needle exchange for service learning for one of my classes at a community college.
Why would, in case people don't know, why would somebody want to exchange a needle? What's the point of a needle exchange program? What is it?
A needle exchange program basically is when a user is done with using a needle, they can drop it off at the exchange and in return get the same amount in clean needles. And the reason why we do that is because there's AIDS and hepatitis C epidemic among drug users, and by giving them clean needles, they are less likely to share needles and infect other people.
Okay, good. So you've been working with this program, and that seems to be a hot passion.
Yeah, definitely. I've never been exposed to drugs, really, but I've definitely learned to see people who use drugs in a different light, as like an addiction, a health problem, not so much as a moral, immoral lifestyle. And even though the needle exchange doesn't unpromote drug use, I feel that I'm still helping people, because if they ever choose to not do drugs anymore, they will be healthy. They will not have to worry about dealing with AIDS or hepatitis C, and hopefully it'll be easier for them.
Yeah, because at that point, then all they have to do is kick the habit, stop the habit, and not also have to cure these other horrible diseases.
Right. I mean, it's already hard enough to come out of addiction,
Yeah.
as we all know, and it's just help them get farther.
Yeah, and that needle exchange and those kinds of things are what, when other countries, the more civilized countries do this, they're looking at a harm reduction thing. How, if somebody has some habit, how can we at least reduce the harm of it? Whereas here in this country, we make everything a crime.
Yeah, it's kind of like sex among teenagers, these abstinence-only sex programs where we're scared of telling teenagers about sex because we think that then they'll start doing it.
Yeah,
and
I'm sure they wouldn't do it at all if we didn't tell them how to avoid problems.
Exactly.
They'd be blissfully unaware until 21 or something.
Yeah, and obviously studies have been shown that it doesn't reduce teenagers from having sex, but it does reduce their chances of actually using condoms or birth control. So.
Let me check back with your colleague on this end of the line here for a moment. You gave us at the beginning of the program like a 1-minute summary of this. Can you tell us some more about the Peace Activist Training? We've had a chance to meet some of the 4 of the 6 participants. Can you tell us some more about the program? What are you trying to accomplish in some more detail?
I was going to say, I think they've already sort of illustrated some of what we're trying to accomplish, which is, you've heard several of them refer to already how they're taking the experience of this program and putting it to use with other things. And that's in fact one of the major goals, is to give, no one's too old to learn new tools, to put in our toolbox to be able to go out and do things differently and better and more effectively. And one of the goals of the program is to offer new additional practice in various things. So some of the different things that they've done already, and we're just finishing the third week, so we've got one more week to go, which is kind of hard to believe. But they've done a range of things in terms of going to Tent City, and we are going back to, what are we taking back?
Toothbrushes, toothpaste, feminine hygiene products, towels, some clothing, I think, just soup. Yeah. When we visited the first time and toured, our tour guide was telling us about all of the things that the individuals living there really don't have. Like, I think we just mentioned, so we have organized and are going to go back on Monday.
Okay.
One of the other things that sort of runs through as a thread is this notion of going out and talking to people. So the very first day, these guys were out talking to people on the street.
And you had developed a question that you wanted to ask people about? Is that the format? What was the question?
They're all different.
You had multiple questions. Okay. And so it was going out on the streets and talking with the public.
Big scary public.
The public.
Another big scary public was one of the things is to develop an issue that they want to talk about, develop a survey, and go out and talk to the big scary public about that, and then compile that information and go and talk to a public official. You all want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, our question and sort of the focus of a lot of what we've been doing has been around police accountability and the racial disparity in the justice system. And so our question was, do you think that your race affects how you're treated by the police? And if you think that the police are held accountable for their actions. And we got a vast majority who believed, yes, the race does affect how you're treated by the police, and no, the police are not held accountable for their actions. So it was definitely an amazing experience to really go out and survey the public.
And we'll talk with that. We'll spend a few minutes getting into that because I know that's been your big project. You folks met with Abe Osheroff in Seattle, a longtime activist that was pretty impressive. And you said that folks have done some nonviolence training and anti-oppression training, and
we spent a good portion of earlier today doing some different exercises on campaign planning and strategy and sort of being in other people's shoes that, again, I hear reference when they talk about sort of taking that in and going someplace where they want to go with it. And I guess the one other thing that they've been practicing for is public speaking. So we're here taping this with you, which is one form of public speaking, but in the final week of the program, we do a little bit of soapboxing, where we go out, them having practiced what they're going to talk about, and talk and deal with passersby and all sorts of other things. And one of the reasons to do that is to give them that experience. And once you've done that, or once you've come and done this scary TV show with you, you can do anything. So one of the very fast stories, several years ago, one of our peace activist trainees was at a school board meeting prior to this current version of stuff and was way down on the list of having signed up to speak. And then suddenly people weren't there, so he got up to speak. And he spoke better than anybody else who had prepared and than any of the adults, and was very direct, both with the recruiters who were in the crowd and directly speaking to the school board from his heart. And he later said it was only because he'd had to do this other awful thing that really taught him that he could do it.
Let's see, Katie, you had said that when we were on the phone preparing for this thing, you said that this is something I'd be willing to pay for, but I'm getting paid. You get this stipend to help you do this, so you don't have to get a summer job. Who was it? Somebody was going to take a different summer job and did this. What was that? How did that story go?
Well, I am a camp counselor, and so last summer I was a camp counselor, and I was planning on doing it again this summer. And as I was signing my contract, I found out about this program. So I applied. I didn't really think, I wasn't sure if I would get in because they don't take very many people, but I called my other boss and asked for more time, and then I quit.
So now you're doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
It's a smart career move.
yeah. Well, this is a really good experience, and I'm really,
Yeah.
really glad that I
Yeah.
made the decision that I did.
Let's talk some more about that police accountability thing. All 6 of the peace activist trainees you're working on, this is your group project. And you said that each year the folks decide what topic to take on and do whatever it takes to work on that. And Maria, you said that it's the Troy Patterson case. It's well known in Seattle. People in Olympia or Thurston County might not know about it. What's going on with that case? What's it about?
It's kind of, I could say, our inspiration, I guess, to get us into the police accountability project that we're doing now. And it's about Troy Patterson. It's his case, and he's accusing the police of basically planting drugs on him when he did not have them on there. It's a very interesting case, and I think it's a little known in Seattle, getting more known. It's getting more publicity, papers and such. But it's a very interesting case, and that's what really got us into this whole project and what just grabbed us in.
So the issue is he was arrested for drugs, but the claim is that he didn't really have them. The police put them on them. And what color is he?
I think he's half African American.
Okay.
He's also in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the police probably would have gotten away with this, and he probably would have been charged if this was not done directly in front of a surveillance camera. And
At
so
Walgreens.
there's-
At Walgreens,
Oh.
downtown Seattle.
Okay. Okay.
And also, the police filed a report. Thank you. The police filed a report about what happened, but as soon as this video came out, they found that it was surprisingly really different from what the police said had happened. So
imagine that.
So that's what really sparked. Well, maybe Troy Patterson isn't lying about what happened.
And there's a pattern of problems with the police doing the wrong thing and not being held accountable when they're caught. And, I mean, it's an ongoing thing. I know that the Fellowship of Reconciliation in Seattle has a racial justice committee that's been monitoring this. Can you tell us something about that?
Well, as you say, it is an ongoing pattern, and it's both the particulars, in this case, a couple of the officers involved who have been involved previously in questionable things, and it's also the question of who's watching who and who's being accountable. So it's the individual actions, and are the watchdog groups that have been set up really doing what they're set up to do?
The official watchdog
The
group.
official watchdog group. So in the African American community and in different parts of Seattle, there have been sort of mounting concerns, and this case has sort of crystallized some of that.
Okay. Because there's an ongoing organization for a long time, Mothers
Against racial.
Mothers for Police
Accountability. Yeah. And they've been around for some time.
For many years.
Yeah,
doing work on this.
Because and I know the Racial Justice Committee of the Seattle Fellowship of Reconciliation has been monitoring court cases and along with other folks and seeing the racial disparities. One of you had mentioned about the rate of drug charges and sentences depending on race. Who mentioned that? Yeah.
During the class that I took that I had to do the needle exchange program with, I did a lot of research, and according to the King County Bar Association, a black man in King County is 20 times more likely than a white man to be charged for a drug crime.
And what about the actual rates of drug usage across groups?
Well, it's majority of drug users are white. I mean, Seattle is about 75% white, and just from experience at the exchange in a pretty diverse neighborhood, it's mostly white people that are using.
And yet the King County Bar Association says a black person is 20 times as likely to get
busted. Very disproportionate.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you guys are holding them accountable. Let me know how it turns out.
We're trying.
So you've got something coming up. You've got a project that you've been working on for July 31st, which will be it will have taken place by the time people watch this. But as we're taping this program, that's coming up. So the Community Forum on Police Accountability,
Yes.
and it's in the Rainier area of Seattle, Rainier Avenue South.
Columbia City.
Columbia City, yeah.
Yeah.
Does anyone else want to talk about it?
Well, like we said, the Troy Patterson case did kind of grab us into this, and for the last couple weeks, we've kind of all joined in together and worked on it, and it's really been awesome, getting so many knowledge. And this actually flyer here was designed by ourselves. Actually, the art is done by one of our members who's not here, but they did an excellent job.
Thanks for showing that. When we were preparing for the program and talking on the phone, I was really impressed that you want to make sure that the two people who could not be here still had their voices heard. I thought that was such a nice thing. So tell us who they are and what their concerns, their main issue concerns are.
One is Catherine Means, and the other is Dante Garcia. And Catherine is really into media and how it portrays girls and stuff. And
This is the skinny, you got to be skinny thing?
yeah, got to
Yeah.
be skinny to fit into society. And
Anatomically impossible ideal.
yeah.
What?
Anatomically impossible ideal
yeah.
that's sort of
Yeah.
perpetuated by the
Yeah.
media.
And Dante is into how do I word this?
The society of fear.
Yeah, it's how society is based on fear kind of thing. So
Yeah, which is a far cry from the American dream.
yeah, it's very
Yeah.
proud. That's
Yeah.
another thing he's really into.
He's really interested.
He's really
Yeah.
into the American dream.
Playing with what that means or could mean or
Yeah.
should mean or does mean or
Yeah, if
Yeah,
it has any
definitely.
meaning anymore at all.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I appreciate it. It was when you mentioned that on the phone, I thought that's another example of that. What everybody had said is that how everybody has bonded so well. It's this
Absolutely.
little
Another
cohesive
thing,
group in just a few weeks.
I'm sorry. They did want us to send out something to other people, and that is that when they joined this program, they had one thing that they really were passionate about, and now it's just like they have so many more things, and they learn so much from each other, like all of us.
Yeah.
So that's. Sorry, go ahead.
Catherine said she laughed and she was like, "Oh, it's so hard to pick what I'm most passionate about now." It was
Yeah.
funny,
Well, that's what happens. That's why this person gets overworked, and other people, other activists, get overworked.
Like this
It all counts. It's all important to be working on.
Like Abe Ashraf says, an activist is never unemployed. An activist is
Right,
never out of work.
and he was active in the supporting democracy in the Spanish Civil War in the late 1930s. So here's a guy who knows. Yeah. Let's talk for just a bit about the Western Washington Fellowship of Reconciliation, which is the organization that sponsors this, and then we'll talk about just briefly about the funding source.
Right.
So what's the Western Washington Fellowship of Reconciliation? What do you do? And try to keep it pretty brief.
Oh, Glenn. Western Washington Fellowship of Reconciliation represents a number of different FOR chapters and groups, including you guys down
Yes.
here in Olympia and folks down in Centralia, Chehalis, and Seattle, and a variety of folks around. And we do a number of different things. This is my favorite part of what we do. Is this Peace Activist Trainee Program, but we sponsor a number of other get-togethers for activists and FOR folks over the course of the year. So there is a fall retreat that happens near here in Lacey.
Right in Lacey.
Right here in
Of
Lacey.
all places.
Of all places. on a topic every fall.
Right.
We have a spring assembly that brings together people from around Western Washington to talk about hot topics and things they're passionate about.
And grassroots emerging issues and
Exactly.
these kinds of things.
All
We've
all
done
the
topics
things
on.
most of these things we've done something on.
Yeah.
And we and Oregon Fellowship of Reconciliation alternate doing annual conference that happens in the summertime around July 4th. In addition to that, we do lots of different, all of these issues and so many more that people are active in. And the FOR office, which is located in Seattle, tries to support different chapters and individuals doing all that work.
Yeah, I like in our organizational paperwork, there's a statement that says that we help members and local chapters do together the things that we couldn't do alone. And I like that sense. It's a very collaborative networky, supportive kind of thing.
And one of the other things that parallels this program is that we offer support and skills and inspiration, hopefully, and tools to people to go out and do what they really care about.
Yeah, we do trainings and things. I'll plug the phone number and the website, and then we'll talk briefly about the Abe Keller Peace Education Fund. But the office for the Western Washington Fellowship of Reconciliation in Seattle is at 206-789-5565, and the website is www.scn.org and a /WWFOR. So we get funding for this Peace Activist Trainee Program from the Abe Keller Peace Education Fund. And I knew Abe and worked with him. He was active in the Fellowship of Reconciliation and a bunch of other stuff. Professor at the University of Washington, taught the French language, passionate about stopping nuclear weapons, funny and sweet, and with a good silly streak, and really passionate about education, peace education, and keeping things going. And so after he died, the Abe Keller Peace Education Fund was set up, and we'll plug that phone number and website. The website is www.abekellerpeacefund.org, and they've got information about issues and links and all kinds of good stuff. And the phone contact is 206-365-0956, and we'll plug that at the end of the program as well. So, how does the world look from the perspective of somebody like your age bracket, roughly? We've talked about some specifics, and we've talked about what motivates you, what drives you to be getting involved and doing these things. So one of the things I was curious about was, to what extent are you angry with the folks in the next generation or two older who've screwed things up pretty badly and said, "Here, kids, take it." So how do you see the world? Is there some of that, or is it?
Well, we're thanks to some of the people in power right now of our parents' generation, we're in another war, and we have an unchecked global warming issue, and we're trying to restrict immigration with a variety of sort of xenophobic policies. And I think that though the people in power certainly have put us in a bad situation, there is the legacy of the Vietnam War era activists who can sort of teach us and guide us, and many of, I think, the most effective and some of the most sort of the people who our generation can learn the most from are those people, and they're some of the people who are doing some of the greatest activism right now. So I think that there is a lot of opportunity for our generation to reach out to them, and for their generation to reach out to us and empower us, so we can really step up and solve these problems.
Other insights on how you see the world and your role in it?
Well, I agree with what Matt was saying. Also, though, I mean, it's a pretty bleak outlook right now. Looking at the world, it can be really depressing. But I cannot say that I could blame other generations for the way things have turned out, because, I mean, no one in our generation can truly say that in the same circumstances someone wouldn't have done the same thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, we really can't know unless we have, like, it's easy to be really idealistic, but when faced with real problems in front of you, it's a lot different of a view. And also, I mean, I feel like putting blame, like you were asking, is just going backwards, and there's really nothing's going to come from that. And instead, we should just focus on what we can do to move forwards and fix the issues that have been created.
Do you think it's possible? I shouldn't say just possible, because that's like a yes or no thing. What do you see about your prospects or your likelihood or your capacity to fix these problems?
Well, as activists, we just kind of have to stay optimistic, I suppose.
Yeah, I think we really can't just think about failure at this point, just especially with like global warming. Like according to experts, if we continue at the same rate, we are going to go through this irreversible process. And I think we just gotta keep looking our eyes on the prize and try not to, just try not to get in that state of depression and hopelessness, because we're not going, even if we can't do anything, like, I just feel like in a state of despair, it'll make it even worse, I guess.
Well, it's encouraging to see you folks doing so much, and then the other two that I haven't had a chance to meet. When you and I were talking on the phone, you had mentioned something funny that Matt had said, and I wrote it down.
I have it in my head.
Tell it.
We were discussing the issues with American politics and American government, and Matt got all like worked up, and he said, well, in America we don't like to play sports, we like to watch them, and it's the same with politics. We don't like to participate, we just like to watch. And I mean, I feel like it's kind of true. I mean, it seems like a lot of people just sit by and watch what's going on, but
we'll root for the most attractive and the tallest, the candidate, and but we'll never actually debate and get involved and do it. We really do live in a culture of apathy, and I think that can be led to by despair, and so I think we need to keep optimistic about it.
What's your take on the Peace Activist Trainees program approach toward encouraging and supporting activists?
Well, I know at least in previous youth programs that I've done, the environment has been very patronizing. There's definitely been a power imbalance where the adults are on top and the youth are at the bottom, and in some ways the discussions are very controlled and kind of scientifically managed. It's as if we don't have intellectual discussions, like we're not capable, or which is ludicrous because we are having one right now. So
in front of a whole bunch of people.
Yeah. So this program has definitely given us lots of space and time to really get into deep discussions about the world and how it operates, and peace, and just all these great things. And does anyone want to elaborate?
I have to definitely agree with Katie. There's a lot of programs that will kind of be like, oh, well, you're the younger child, this is what you can do and this is your limit where you can go. But definitely being a PAT has given us such a wide range of different things that we're allowed to do. Like we facilitate our own meetings, we have our own lunch time, it's just like we have such a variety of space and kind of like free time type, but it's not really free time. It's like as if we hold our own conversations like within ourselves. Of course the adults are involved in it, but it's just like they join us in our own conversation together.
Yeah.
Not
they
as
raise
like
their hands
separate.
too.
Yeah, they raise their hands also, just like the kids do.
Yeah. Somebody had said that even when you disagree, you find a way to work it out. So it's like you're fully involved and empowered to come up with the solutions, which is really cool.
Yeah.
We're running just a few minutes left in the show. I want to see if there's anything else you need to say about how you see yourselves as activists, either yourself individually or as an age cohort moving into activism into the future. Is there anything else you want to say on that?
I certainly see myself as going on, continuing to do activism, and certainly being very empowered by this program, and it's been an amazing experience.
Does it beat being a camp counselor?
It's different.
It's different, yeah.
But I'm going back for a couple weeks to volunteer. But no, I'm glad that I did this program. It's a really amazing opportunity, and it is really empowering.
Katie, you had talked about the importance of being an ally of people who are different from yourselves or in lower power system.
Yeah.
Tell us what that concept is of being an ally and how you see that as something for people to be doing.
Well, I definitely see myself wanting to learn and act upon becoming an ally, because in the sense of, for instance, to people of color, like I want to learn how, as a white person, I can help end the oppression, as well as things like immigration, the classism, and like LGBT community.
Yeah, lesbian, gay,
Yeah.
bisexual, transgender.
I think it's really important that we all look at ourselves and look at how the different categories that we're placed in affects our lives, and learn how to use who we are to help assist and really develop ourselves, I guess, and change the existing power structures.
Yeah, that's a big agenda.
Yeah.
So we got 6 people working at it plus Ellen, so heck, no sweat. Let's wrap it up with some final comments. If we can start with Ellie, and just a brief closing thought from each of all 5 of you.
Well, I guess just to sum it all up, this has been a really great program. We've just done so many eye-opening experiences, and I know that Dante and Catherine couldn't be here, but I know that they both are loving this program too, and I think we're all sad that it's going to be ending soon, so it's been a great experience.
Yeah, it's definitely been an amazing experience. It's empowered me and motivated me to become more involved in activism, and you know, it's you can win at activism, and I mean, with the school board, we're voting on it in a couple days. The policy that we had, the school board is, and you know, this has been an amazing experience, truly.
Definitely have to agree with what they have said. And just to add a little bit on to what Ellie said about Catherine and Dante, although they're not here, they are really here. You just can't see them, but they're here.
Good. Thanks, Kate.
I guess that this group has really made me feel confident about youth. Definitely having this experience with other youth has made me feel that there is hope, and I hope that it gives all of you adults watching hope that we're not gonna let the world fall apart.
I always get teared up when I listen to them, because they make me feel so privileged to get a chance to work with them all. And I hope that people who get a chance to watch this show get, when they're wandering around dealing with teenagers in their lives, so that they are more capable, perhaps, and certainly just as capable as adults are, to have meaningful conversations and act on their consciences and their passions out in the world.
Great. Well, thanks to Ellen and Katie and Maria and Matt and Ellie. During this hour, we've had a chance to get to know 4 young people who've already accomplished a lot for peace and social justice. And the activism has helped them develop a lot of compassion and insights that it's clear they'll be using into the future. So when you hear people bad-mouthing teenagers, remember these folks. If you're already, as an activist, as a viewer, if you're already an activist for these issues, please do include young people in meaningful roles, not just in low status and low impact roles. They'll strengthen your social change movements and help you make progress into the future. We want to thank the Western Washington FOR and the Abe Keller Peace Education Fund for organizing and funding the program. I want to thank all the folks who've been watching. For information about a variety of issues that relate to peace, social justice, and nonviolence, you can contact the Olympia Fellowship of Reconciliation at 491-9093. We all share one planet. We can make the world a better place, but we all have to do our part, and the world needs what you have to offer.